Yeah, so as I was saying, um, this is indication of private property. And because the horse itself is mine, whatever belongs to it is also mine by my labor. All right, because I have tamed the horse in the first place. Then the turf that my servant cut, this I told you is the tricky one. And this is where you have to understand the existence of two things. First, that capitalist society is primarily dependent upon the exchange of commodities. Relationships are forged uh, by people through the exchange of commodities, through give and take. So usually the exchange of commodities happens, and I told you that in the second stage of state of nature, he introduced money. So if somebody has the money to buy, and somebody has something to sell which may be of use to others, in such an instance, what happens is that you pay money and buy what you want. Okay, so once you pay money and buy what you want, that is no longer a product of the person who created it. See, the third thing which I have dug out the ore that I have dug out from somewhere in nature is mine by my labor. Okay, there you're saying because you have labored into it, it is yours, right? So it's your private property. Now, if the turf that the servant cut, if you're not buying it from him, if you're not paying him anything, then that is his because it is a product of his labor. So when you pay money to the laborer, what is the laborer doing? He's selling an abstract property, which is his ability to labor. Okay. He doesn't have money. He doesn't have commodities that he can sell. So what he does is that he makes his ability to work or to labor, he makes it his commodity. He puts it up in the capitalist system of exchange. So when you say that turf is now mine, what are you doing? You didn't buy the turf. What you bought is the labor that what you bought is the labor that was there, but that was put in by the laborer. Okay, so that is called wage labor, and this is peculiar to uh, capitalist societies. And therefore, you have to understand that the second stage of nature that we have talked about is experimental because it is showing nothing but the whole idea of capitalism. Okay, now it is based on exchange relationships. See, nowadays we have very big malls, we have super bazaars. You have money, you go into a mall, you pay the thing for that thing that you bought, whatever that might be. You have them, if you have the money, you pay for it and you come out. You don't establish a relationship. Okay, I'm making this point because later on this will become important. This is precisely the point that Rousseau will talk about. Okay, you just pay the money. There's somebody sitting there at the counter, and collecting the money. You pay the money, pick up whatever you bought, and come home. So this is an exchange relationship. Okay. It is not based in any kind of human considerations. It does not have any human consideration. That is what you need to remember. Okay. Uh, it shows that people should always have something to exchange. And if you are a decrepit like me, let me say I don't have money. Let me say I don't have anything to sell. And given my very bad back problems and other health problems, I won't even be able to work. So, what happens to me? What happens to me is that you are asked, not asked, nobody cares for you. You've seen people on the roads begging, somebody feels something for someone, they give some money as charity, but otherwise people don't do even that. Okay, they don't do even that. So what happens therefore with the system of exchange is that the solidarity that I talked to you about, the feudal societies, even though there was no freedom for the individual, all the four freedoms, free thinking, freedom of speech, free will, and free market, all those things are absent in the feudal society. But what is present is the bonding between people, solidarity. There is social solidarity. Even today, wherever, if you go to Africa and all, where people live in pure tribalism, there they have solidarity. They don't have private property. If you see the Konda Reddys, for instance, here, or if you see some of the Gonds who are in the absolutely interior, we call them Adivasis, those people live as communities. You take the forest away from them, they won't be able to live because their life is the forest. So people tell you that the Narmada Bachao Andolan is an environmental movement. It's not an environmental movement. Please remember that. It is a movement to protect the lives of the forest dwellers. Because if you build the Sardar Sarovar, which they are doing, and then what happens is acres and acres, hectares, not acres, hectares of forest will get submerged in the reservoir that the Sardar Sarovar will create. Okay, so what happens? People who are living as Adivasis in the forest and use the forest as their livelihood, most of them are still hunter-gatherers or primitive agriculture. Okay, very primitive agriculture. They are in that stage. They have no skills that are useful to a modern capitalist society. So if you let those people lose the forest, then they have lost their life because they, if they are a little smart, they will become laborers. People who otherwise are living their life comfortably on the products that the forest gives them, they are now reduced to wage laborers. Okay, so if you displace them from the forest, then those people are no longer living a life of freedom. They are living a life of bondage, because that is what wage labor is. If you don't go to work one day, then you don't get to eat. That is how it is. And I know I'm going at a little bit of a tangent, but I want you to understand this point. When N.T. Ramarao became the chief minister, he said, I'll give you rice at 2 rupees per kg. Okay, this was in 1983. And this was the time when what was being sold as rice, good quality rice, in the marketplace was somewhere around 8 rupees or 7 rupees per kilo. So you have this, if you look at the farmers' agitation that is happening now, you see that they are asking for minimum support price. Okay, and the minimum support price is something that insulates the farmer from bankruptcy. And there's another thing that the farmer wants, which is that in case there is some kind of damage to the paddy or to the wheat that they have cultivated because of unseasonal rains, the Food Corporation of India still picks that paddy and pays the minimum support price. So they don't want to give that up because it is their safety. That's their safety net, right? Now, what we are looking at is some kind of protection from unfettered capitalism, and people say you should intervene. This is the difference between a Westphalian state and a post-colonial state. Post-colonial state has welfareism at its heart, or should have welfareism at its heart. I talked to you about democratic centralism that was borrowed from Lenin, the 5-year plan system that was borrowed again from USSR. Okay, so all these are those which, are trying to insulate the vulnerable sections of the population from becoming completely useless and therefore dying with no work. So that is the thing that you need to understand. That is what the capitalist system does. Okay, on the one hand, you say that you're looking at, you know, in when was it? Yeah, but probably 2004, the stock exchange, the BAC, used to be somewhere around in between 4,000 and 5,000 points. Now, despite people talking about recession and all that, it is almost touching the 50,000 point level. And this is in 16 years. That is because of there is nothing but you are looking at the whole idea of capitalism. Okay. You say, what is the per capita income? You say it is 33 rupees, let's say. All right. But not everybody is earning 33 rupees. The income of somebody like Mukesh Ambani is also divided as income of people. Okay, so there is concentration of money in some places and lack of money in other places. So all these statistics can be very, very misleading. So what you must understand is that old proverb, lies, white lies, and statistics. Lies is telling lies. White lies is brazenly telling lies. Statistics is the highest form of lying. You can make statistics speak any language you like. Two people can take the same set of figures and give two different interpretations. So, statistics are tricky. You have to understand that. They can be used to give you a false picture, which is what governments all over the world do, which is what they do all over the world. And Montek Singh Ahluwalia, when he was the chairman of the Planning Commission, said anybody who's earning 33 rupees a day is above the poverty line. And after that, at that time I was teaching in TISS. He came there for a lecture and I asked him, he raised this point there. I asked him, I said, Dr. Ahluwalia, if I take away, if I take away everything that you have and give you 33 rupees, I'll take away everything that you have, just give you 33 rupees. Your wife, your children, and you. And if you have parents to look after them, will you look after them in 33 rupees a day? Will you eat properly? If somebody needs medication, can you buy? There are some tablets, and this is not an exaggeration. I take those tablets. There are some tablets that cost 35 rupees each. There are some tablets that cost 52 rupees each, one tablet. So you're talking about 33 rupees being, if you're earning 33 rupees, you're above the poverty line. And he had no answer. He had no answer. So you see, you can do, I'm sorry, I did that. You can do whatever you want with statistics. But Locke is an intelligent man. He didn't see, of course, to be fair to him, he didn't see this negative side of capitalism because he just saw the positive thing of capitalism. And he thought, why not put your labor in exchange? And he believes that when the economy is booming, which it will in his second stage of the state of nature, because at that time the economy was booming, he believed that it becomes necessary to manage society. Because now that there is a lot of money, this creates the necessity for management of society. Let us understand why. Why is he saying this? He's saying this because once you have lifted those three limitations, if you had a band like this, let's say there are three individuals, A, B, and C. A is earning the most with all the limitations. He's here. B is here in the middle. C is here. This is all that is differentiating the three of them. So it's relative equality. But once you lifted these limitations, especially the labor limitation, then what happens is some people are capable of laboring more or working more smartly. And then there is a boom in the economy. And what happens then? then this becomes this. Okay, it becomes this. So A is now here, C is now here. All right. So there's greater inequality. Locke anticipated that people will say this. This is a greater inequality system. People will say this. So he had his defense ready. You know what he said? He said, yes, there is greater inequality, but don't compare this with this. Let A be here, let B be somewhere in between, and let C be here. Okay, so he says don't compare A and C. Compare A with the A of the first stage of the state of nature, and compare C with the C of the first stage of the state of nature. Because in the first stage, due to the operation of the spoilage, the sufficiency, and the labor limitations, there is no great social wealth being generated. So let us give it some terms, some monetary terms. So A at this point is earning 5 rupees. Here is B who's earning 3 rupees. And here is C who's earning 1 rupee. So it's a relatively equal situation. But once we have come to this now, A has gone here and C is here. So Locke is saying compare these both. Now, because of the fact that there is a boom and because of the fact that money allows the economy to grow, A here compared to A here, if he's earning 5 rupees here, here he's earning 500 rupees. Okay, he's earning 500 rupees. Now C, who's here earning 1 rupee, while he's here, he is earning 100 rupees. Okay, he's earning 100 rupees. So what happens? He says, look at the position of C here and look at the position of C here. Instead of 1 rupee that he's getting here, he's getting 100 rupees here. So once the limitations are lifted, even C benefits. Even though the inequality has increased, instead of 5 to 1, which is just 4 rupees, 500 to 100 is 400 rupees. There is a difference. But what you will see is that you have ensured that C is earning more. Now, let me give you an example. When I was earning this is not very long ago, okay? When I was earning something like 40,000 or 41,000 or something per month, at that time, I was so sick that I was asked not to drive, okay? And so I engaged a driver whom I was paying 3,500 rupees a month. I was paying a driver 3,000 rupees a month. Okay, 3,500, sorry. And now Though technically I don't need a driver most of the time, I still have kept him because my wife is not supposed to drive. She also has some health problems. So what has happened is I have hired a driver again. But now what do I pay him? I pay him 18,000. Why? Because my salary has gone up. If my salary remained at 41,000, where can I pay 18,000 to my driver? That's almost like giving half my salary to my driver. My maidservant, when she started working in our house, she was getting a salary of some 700 or 800 or whatever. Now she gets a salary of 14,000 per month. So this is what Locke is talking about. That is why he calls it a solution to poverty. He says it doesn't matter if there is greater inequality. The positive side of capitalism is that it, even while inequalities are rising, even people at the lowest level are being pulled up due to what he calls the trickle down effect. Money trickles down. And when you have abstract properties, like for example, if you take the service industry today, okay, previously, if you had to conduct a marriage, what did you do? Some 25 years ago, if you had to have a marriage, then you had to book a hall, you had to go distribute um, wedding invitations, people had to cook for those who are coming for the wedding. All these things were there. But today, you have these people called wedding planners. That's a service. Wedding planners. What do? They come to you, they ask you, what do you want? How many people are you expecting? So the chap will book the right kind of hall for you. He'll take your permission. He'll book the hall. He'll fix a caterer. He says this caterer is excellent. He'll do a great job of it. And if children come, usually in weddings, they are bored. So let's have some face painting or artificial, not artificial, temporary tattoos. Tattoo otherwise is engraved in the skin. Okay, somebody to do that for children and keep them occupied. Then to dress the bride, makeup, and all that, you hire services of people. So everything is now available as service. And you just need to go to one fellow and he'll organize the whole thing for you. All you need to do is pay money. You don't have to do anything. It's the same thing for funerals also. Funerals also, one fellow will do everything for you. In cities, it's not like that in villages. It is definitely like that in cities. They'll do everything. Funeral services are also now taken care of. So all kinds of people benefit. People in smashans benefit. All right. And today, at one time, Brahmins who performed funeral services or funeral rituals were seen as being lower than those who perform marriages and other things like that. But today, you will be surprised to know that those people who perform funeral services, funeral rituals, those Brahmins earn about 2 or 3 times more than the Brahmin who is doing only Shubha Karya. They earn more than 2-3 times. Because this is a greater requirement. You have to get rid of the body. And you have to get rid of it according to a certain system. So that's how it is. So once these Brahmins were within the Brahmins, these were considered to be pariahs. They were considered to be scavengers within the Brahmin thing. Okay, and those who took dan, dan, what were you doing? You were giving your sins to that Brahmin. And that Brahmin was considered to be extremely impure, more impure than anybody else in the society, more impure than the Chandala. Okay, and he had to purify himself with rituals for over a certain period of time, and that certain period of time is not 2-3 days, but about 50 days or 60 days. That is how it was. But now it's not like that. Anyway, so when the economy starts booming, when the inequalities are increasing, despite the fact that this fellow is better off than he is here, he would still say that this man is getting much more than me. So Locke believes that this is now time for regulation and management of society. So the necessity for authority comes in automatically once you need regulation in society. So how do you establish authority? Social contract. He also says, like Hobbes did, let's have a social contract and let's establish authority. But unlike Hobbes, even the social contract in Locke has 2 stages. This is very important. Please remember this. The first stage is between members of society who have property, and that gives birth to what he called civil society. The meaning of civil society in Locke is very different from what it is today. I argue with people, don't call these organizations civil society organizations. Please call them non-governmental organizations or development work organizations or whatever, but don't call them civil society. Because civil society for Locke consists of, and this is what you have to remember, this is extremely important. It consists of people who have 40 shillings per week, which are unencumbered, which means you don't have to pay these 40 shillings to buy something. You don't have to pay these 40 shillings as, I've taken a loan and I have to pay back. No. In a week, you should have savings of 40 shillings. 40 shillings that you're not going to use, not earnings, savings of 40 shillings. If you have that, then you are considered a propertied member of society. And if you are a propertied member of society, then you become a part of this thing that he called civil society. He used the term civil society. It was actually first used by Aristotle because he believed that society should be civil. And when he said man is a social animal, he generically said human beings have a tendency to be civil to each other. But Locke changed the meaning completely. Locke said those who worked hard have managed to save 40 shillings per week. If you have not been able to save that much, that means you are either not very smart or you are not willing to work very hard. One of those two reasons. So he says those people, he'll call them society because right from the beginning he's been saying it's the state of nature is not a war of all against all. It's a harmonious state of nature which assumes that there is a society. So that is why, to differentiate it from that generic society, he creates this body called the civil society. This civil society is the one that creates the social contract. Okay, the propertied are the rational. Remember, I told you that. That is one of the main ideas of Hobbes. Those who have property are the ones who are rational. And please understand, he's not illogical here. Okay, at one time in America, there was a thing called the gold rush. Somebody said at one place in America, you could go and if you distilled sand, you were getting gold filings. Some people said, all that is rubbish. Some people said, let's go give it a try. So those who went and gave it a try, they actually found that they got gold. So the other people who said, it's not there, all that is rubbish, didn't get it. So these people became richer. That's the kind of thing Hobbes, Locke is talking about. If you didn't take up the opportunities that this new capitalist society was offering, either because you didn't have enough brains, or because you weren't willing to work hard enough, or because you weren't willing to take chances to become richer, then it's your problem. It is absolutely your problem. And he basically talks about, say, I'm coming to less than a minute. Can I put another this thing and shall we finish this today, please? Somebody quickly respond.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm almost at the end, so it will not take me 20 minutes or more than that. Okay, so I'll see you back again. I'm just putting it again. I'll schedule a new meeting, right? See you in a couple of minutes.